More is lost by indecision than is by the wrong decision. Plato or somebody probably said that. I have another video that I'm working on right now that has a lot of analysis to do, but I feel like this topic that I'm talking about today, I had to cover now in a short form before the meme fades out fully. I was talking to my buddy Danny recently, and he has a YouTube channel, so please go check him out. There's a bit of a meme going around right now from the 2015 film Pan, which was a huge box office flop that tried to do a reboot of the Peter Pan IP with the rest of the reboots from the 2015 craze. This is where we got the Fantastic Four reboot, Jurassic World, Terminator Genesis, Poltergeist, and all that stuff. They were cooking a lot back then, but just not everything tasted good. So like I was saying, Pan was an attempted reboot that fell flat on its face for a massive budget of about $150 million, which only grossed $128.9 million worldwide in return. The meme that is circulating regarding this movie showcases Hugh Jackman, who plays Blackbeard, who is Captain Hook's predecessor, hyping up his army of children by singing an even edgier cover of Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit.
When the lights out, he says dangerous. Here we are now, hesitator.
The cover itself is flat, out of key, and an all-out bad decision, and it is impossible given the film's timeline. Look, I know that the inclusion of this song in the film was just an impulse director's decision to put the song in because the cast and the crew were singing it on set to warm up and just pass time. But this film is directed by Joe Wright. He directed the multi-Oscar winning film Darkest Hour, and I'm not letting him off the hook. Get it? Hook? So yeah, anyways, I rewatched the original 1953 Disney animated film Peter Pan, the 1991's Robin Williams live-action sequel, Hook, and the 2002 sequel Return to Neverland, as well as the 2015 masterpiece Pan. I am not going to be including the 2003 live-action adaptation because that one mostly retells the original 1953 story, but in live-action, so it really adds nothing for us, so I'm also just sick of Peter Pan right now, so I'm not doing any more watching. I'm doing all of this to answer one question though, and it's at the heart of this 2-hour debate that I had with my friend. How does Blackbeard, a pirate from the late 1600s, know a song that wouldn't come out until 1991? Okay, Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm gonna make this one really quick because what the hell am I doing? You all know the original Peter Pan story. In the late 1890s England, a 12-year-old Wendy Darling as well as her brothers John and Michael are violently abducted in the middle of the night by a dagger-wielding, knife-eared psychomaniac and brought to a violent anarchy state where time is meaningless, homicidal plunderers relentlessly hunt down the children, ferocious reptiles mutilate their prey, and brute strength determines your place in the food chain. This is Neverland, a place where people never age and is akin to purgatory. They bond with the locals, yada yada yada. Captain Hook is trying to kill Peter Pan because Peter cut off his hand and fed it to a crocodile, yada yada yada. And the film ends with Wendy and her brothers returning home so they can embrace the fact that they will grow old, they will grow up, and they will eventually decay into dust with just the fleeting memory of their brief existence in this world quickly becoming nothing more than an old photo buried in the attic. Does that about sum it up? Okay, I like this movie. It's a classic, but Peter straight up abducts these children and he runs a band of worshippers that he calls the Lost Boys who wear the pelts of dead animals. They literally cannot even leave Neverland without Peter's help and his pixie dust, so Peter is in charge of who gets to come and who gets to go. Even though Neverland appears to be a remote island, you can't sail away, you have to fly. So how does this relate to Nirvana? To answer that question, we first need to talk about Neverland. Not just where it is, but also when it is, and how the people are psychologically impacted by this anomaly. Starting with the obvious, in the 1953 and the 2015 Peter Pan films, the story seems to take place starting in England, but then they move over to Neverland. Neverland presents itself as an island out at sea, but you can actually start to pinpoint where it might be with a bit of digging. First off, Peter Pan seems to have an American accent in the original 1953 film.
Of course, that's why I like him. I tell him to the Lost Boys.
But in the 2015 prequel, it shows him as an English boy at about 12 years old during the Blitz in the 1940s. After he goes to Neverland and the events of the 2015 film play out, we establish the baseline that would then unfold into the original animated film. This means that Peter would develop an American accent during his time in Neverland, suggesting that American English is the native dialect, since common exposure to this dialect can begin to change the speaking patterns of immigrants here in the real world. Next, the inhabitants. One of the most important parts of the film includes includes the Neverland natives who seem to be heavily based off of North American indigenous peoples. This native tribe was in a constant state of war with the Lost Boys, and it seems to be an outdated caricature depiction of American indigenous culture. That being said though, clearly they're American. Going off of that and the changes to Peter's accent, I'm going to assume that Neverland is actually a US territory of some form, with a zip code, tax laws, and the whole Star-Spangled American dream. It's reminiscent of the Caribbean islands, or Caribbean if you're like that, with its high volcanic mountain peaks, diverse tropical climate, and rainforest humidity that produces the frequent rainbows that we see. So it's likely located in either the Atlantic Ocean or near the Caribbean. We already have 50 states that are all accounted for, and this isn't one of them. So I'm going to be calling this the secret 17th US territory that the government keeps under wraps because of what I'm about to talk about next. Now that we roughly know where Neverland is located, and we know that it is a tangible place since objects and people are brought to and from the island in all movies, exactly how does the timeline work so that Blackbeard can sing Nirvana? This changes everything. 2015's Pan is a prequel to the original animation, so let's start there. Peter Pan is just a boy, and he experiences going to Neverland for the first time in the 1940s. Although this film takes place during World War II, Peter encounters all kinds of temporal inaccuracies, such as Blackbeard, whose real-life name was Edward Teach, and who died back in 1718. As weird as this sounds, this actually makes some sense so far because remember, you don't age in Neverland. This means that Blackbeard came to Neverland during his lifetime, and he stayed there for about roughly 200 years until Peter Pan eventually showed up. Since we know that time pauses in Neverland, but we never get any evidence within the movies of time going backwards, then it is impossible for Blackbeard to have heard Nirvana since the film takes place 50 years before Smells Like Teen Spirit would actually release. And since Kurt Cobain wasn't born until 1967, this seems to suggest that Smells Like Teen Spirit existed before Kurt Cobain was born and before it became an internationally celebrated grunge anthem. A sea shanty is an old traditional folk song used by sailors to sync up rhythmical labor while operating a ship. They vary in style and are often adjusted to fit the task at hand, whether it be hoisting a sail or just motivating the crew. In the 2015 prequel, we see Blackbeard using this song as a way to motivate his crew and the work camp, effectively using the song as a sea shanty. Maybe we have it backwards. Maybe the pirates didn't get this song from Kurt Cobain and Nirvana. Maybe Nirvana got this song from Neverland. Maybe this song originated from Neverland and Kurt Cobain simply learned it, brought it out of Neverland, and rewrote it for profit. Oh, but how did he do this though? How did he get to Neverland? You've got to keep up with me here because we're about to go off the rails. In the beginning of Pan, we literally see that the pirates are able to go to and from Neverland with flying ships, and they do so exclusively to abduct children and force them into working in the mines. I'm predicting that maybe this happened to Kurt. In canon, he must have been taken to Neverland and forced to help Blackbeard. Among his crew, he was forced to learn these sea shanties and had them permanently ingrained in his head until Blackbeard dies and the children are rescued. But what about his memory? Kurt Cobain was 23 years old when he wrote Smells Like Teen Spirit, but in the 1991 film Hook, it shows us what happens after somebody has left Neverland for too long. In that film, Peter Pan has forgotten who he is, and it appears that everybody who leaves Neverland will eventually forget all about it. This is even hinted at in the original 1953 animated film, when George Darling claims to remember the ship in the clouds from when he was very young. So how does Kurt remember that song? In the 90s film Hook, Peter never actually gets his memory back of being Peter Pan, but he does remember small fragments of it. And if you look at the 2002 sequel called Return to Neverland, which is surprisingly decent, it shows Wendy being a grown woman at the end, but this time, she seems to remember Peter Pan perfectly fine. That's inconsistent. Oh wait, okay, so there's more. Look at the 2015 movie. That's a prequel, and it takes place in the 1940s showing a young Peter Pan. Now look at the original animated 1953 film. That one takes place in 1904, which is before the prequel. How does the original film take place before a film that is a prequel? It's like the original film is a prequel to its own prequel. So how could Kurt Cobain go back to Neverland and learn how to play Smells Like Teen Spirit from Blackbeard if Blackbeard and his crew are disbanded before Kurt was even born? Oh my god, I never thought I would say that sentence. This is horrible. I'm sorry. I love Kurt Cobain. I love Nirvana. I am so sorry. I swear that I am just recapping what we were theorizing in the car. And this is just a rambling mess of nothingness. I am an idiot. Ignore everything I'm saying, but I'm going to keep going. This seems to suggest that Neverland has some way to access the world in different times. If you're in Neverland, you can travel to other places, but also other eras. So there you go, right? Blackbeard just simply traveled to the 1990s and saw a Nirvana concert, right? In the beginning of Pan 2015, the pirate ship kidnaps a bunch of children and uses them as slaves, so they can just travel wherever they want at any point in time, right? No, it's not that simple. Let me explain why. You see, Peter says that the only way to leave Neverland is by flying. In the 1953 film, Captain Hook's ship is only ever able to leave Neverland after Tinkerbell helps them to fly. But Blackbeard doesn't have this problem. His ships fly all the time, but he does have another problem. Blackbeard is horribly afraid of dying. So much so that the only time he risks aging and leaving Neverland is to go kidnap children who will work in his mines to dig an element called Pixum, which is some kind of thing that helps them stay alive forever. I'm not sure if this film is trying to over-explain the magic, kind of like the Star Wars prequels did, but it seems like people don't get to leave Neverland just for funsies, kind of like how Peter Pan always does. If you go and look back at the film Hook, which takes place in the 90s, the film is about Captain Hook returning to kidnap Peter Pan's children after Peter grows up, and he forgets his whole childhood of magical adventures. Why would Hook wait nearly 80 years in the 1990s to get revenge on Peter if he could have just left Neverland at any time? There has to be something preventing free passage from Neverland. But this is where it goes from a dumb movie theory to something that genuinely concerns me. Think about it. If Neverland can connect to different places on Earth and different points of time, then why does almost everybody who finds Neverland happen to be a child? Peter is a child. Wendy, John, Michael, all of them are children. The Lost Boys are children. Blackbeard kidnaps children from London. Even Hook, Captain Hook, doesn't kidnap Peter. He kidnaps Peter's children. It's almost as if Neverland isn't choosing people at random, it's selecting a certain kind of person. Children believe in possible things, adults don't. And maybe that's not just the theme of Peter Pan. Maybe that's the mechanism that keeps Neverland hidden. Because according to Hook, when you leave Neverland and grow up, you slowly forget that it ever existed. Peter forgets everything. Flying, Tinkerbell, the Lost Boys, even who he is. George Darling only has the faintest feeling that he's seen Hook ships before. Adults don't remember Neverland, they remember remembering Neverland. Think about what that means. If there really were an island somewhere in the American coast that violated causality, stopping aging, containing portals across time, and that had magical minerals capable of extending human life, how would you keep it a secret? The answer is, you wouldn't need to. Every explorer who finds it would eventually grow up and forget what they had seen. Every scientist would come home with a notebook full of observations and slowly have those notes stop making sense over time. Every government official would remember authorizing an expedition, but not to what they said they were looking for. It's the perfect cover-up because the cover-up is built into the island itself. Which also explains why Neverland isn't on any maps. It explains why the entire Native American civilization somehow exists on the island that should technically belong to the United States. It's why nobody questions flying pirate ships appearing over London. The evidence is always there, but nobody could hold on to it long enough to connect the dots and do anything about it. Unless somebody already has. Because let's be honest, if the US government discovered an island with immortality portals throughout time, anti-gravity flight, and abducting children, there's absolutely no chance that they would announce this on the evening news. They'd classify everything and lock it behind 70 layers of paperwork and tell us that Area 51 was the weird one just to keep us distracted from the real problem. So after watching every Peter Pan movie, I think I figured it out. Neverland is not just a magical island. It is an interdimensional anomaly that exists outside of linear time, occasionally opening portals into different eras of human history before erasing the memories of anybody who survives the trip, which means that there are only two possibilities. Either the director Joe Wright accidentally put a 1991 Nirvana song into an 18th century pirate movie because he had bad judgment, or the CIA has been suppressing evidence of an interdimensional island where Kurt Cobain first heard Smells Like Teen Spirit performed as an ancient pirate sea shanty by Blackbeard, an island where the filthy rich elite can privateer the most fearsome seafarers that the world has ever known in all of time to secure what is essentially the fountain of youth. They can recruit child labor while leaving behind no paper trail, because how can you pursue an abductor who can escape to another time? Steal from the past, make them work in the future, and then send them back with no memory. Their children won't even know what happened to them, and by the time they ever do, the statute of limitations would either have expired or wouldn't even exist yet. And Kurt was one of the unlucky few in the sense that he was abducted and forced to work in the mines, traveling through time and space to do so. But he was lucky in the sense that, similar to Wendy Penn and George Darling, he was able to remember fragments of his time in Neverland, specifically the sea shanty that he was forced to learn to appease his captors. This goes deeper though when you start to see the real world connections. Celebrities, politicians, movers, shapers, icons who took up the iconography of Neverland and the Dream World Island as a front to keep themselves young forever and to cover up their crimes involving children, missing persons, abductions, and pure evil. How deep does this rabbit hole go? What was Disney trying to tell us? What does Joe Wright want us to know? These are the only two possible theories to explain this phenomenon. I'm not saying that I believe the second one. I'm just saying that is the only explanation that doesn't create a plot hole. And I hate plot holes. Thank you for watching this video. I have another one coming out soon that is more of our normal broadcast. Bye.